What are you super nerdy about? The Middle Ages. Love me some castles and knights. What's a random fact that you'd like to share? I loved the whole medieval thing when I was younger. Not op. But one I love is that the armor knights wore during combat and contest sports, like jousting, was actually not as cumbersome as it is portrayed in modern media. They were able to move lethally fast in most types of the armor, especially French and Italian designs. The sword strikes they would use often involved going for gouging through gaps in the armor, like through the visor. Gruesome business. It's also far less exhausting to wear for prolonged battles than people think. Modern equipment weighs nearly as much, but isn't nearly as well distributed, so it's probably equally exhausting to wear. It's actually incredibly exhausting to wear. Source: I fight in armor. Nintendo. Specifically the Legend of Zelda series. They're with you, my guy. Movies. I try to watch at least 3 movies every week that I've never seen before. Any recommendations? I would recommend Your Name. I don't like anime, but this movie was perfect in every way. From the art, story, soundtrack, even the title. Such a beautiful movie. Goosebumps. I saw that movie 3 times when it was showing, and it got better every time. Shinkai just has an incredible, unmatched way of bringing the emotions out. Weathering with You was absolutely beautiful as well. Star Trek, Tolkien, and Elder Scrolls lore. I'm also super into maps. I love maps too. Especially old maps. They are so beautiful. How could we not be interested in old maps? r/Papa Towns for the curious. Astronomy. I love space stuff. I would make a career out of it if I could. I would make a career out of it if I could. What's stopping you? Honestly, nothing but my own self-doubts. I say do it. You'll be surprised what you're capable of achieving. I'm a huge band nerd. I'll continue to be in concert bands for as long as humanly possible. I also love airplanes. Specifically jumbo planes like the A380. Too bad the A380 and the 747s are dying out. I'm excited for the 777, 9X and 8X. And one of my best memories is the one time I flew on a Dreamliner. I saw in the Air and Space magazine a few months back that the US was considering allowing commercial supersonic travel again. Apparently scientists have figured out how to break the sound barrier without the sonic boom. 3D modeling and coding. Both great things to learn. Knives. Not in a creepy way or anything. I just think they're interesting. Yes, I used to buy loads. To be honest, they're kinda cheap, but I really want a cold steel one. My favorite has to be my Ka-Bar though. I have the Ka-Bar knife my dad carried when he served in Vietnam. He won't say, but I suspect there's bodies on it. Mine couldn't shut up about the shit he did over there. His favorite is slitting the throat of some guy before sunup and saying he didn't get breakfast that morning. Lol. Music theory. A question and a story. Q. Ever hear pop music and find yourself knowing exactly where the songwriter made a quote or a particular hook where there is a they didn't just do that? Did they? Yes. Yes they did. The flat fourth in Beyonce's All the Single Ladies gets me every time. Story. As was told to me, the band Chicago got the progressions for some of their early hits by copying out of their music theory textbooks and giving them different rhythms. But much of the sound was they were copying classical texts. It's been years since I studied Mound properly. The few times it clicked, it was fascinating. That you know this and heard it straight away is impressive. Thanks. It's more accurate to say I heard there was something going on straight away, then had to have one of my more knowledgeable music theory friends tell me what I was hearing. I was never the best oral skills or music theory student, but even some basics can be taught relatively quickly, especially with a good teacher, and then you start hearing and seeing patterns all over the place. It's sorta like watching any professional sport. If you're passively around it enough with people who know what they're talking about, you start to appreciate it differently and notice patterns. I knew nothing about soccer, then watched the World Cup with a guy who had played since he could walk. He was generous with answering my dumb questions. Now I enjoy watching it. Close bracket. World War II history. Nice. I really want to meet more people like you in real life. I've only been getting into the history of the wars in the past year or so and nobody is ever interested to talk about it. Check out Dan Carlin's Hardcore History. His series on WW1 Blueprint for Armageddon is stunning. Also look for Ghosts of the Ostfront. It's about the failed WW2 German invasion of Russia and the subsequent invasion of Berlin by the Russians. Also excellent. The American Civil War and the Legend of Zelda. I don't see the link. It's a link to the past. We were not prepared for the Spanish Inquisition. Space. Nah man, space is too much for my brain. Not me. Half my brain is empty space. I'm a nerd of all trades, master of none. Into so many different things. Percy Jackson. It's decent. The movies weren't close enough to the books. I haven't seen the movies. But I don't want to lol. It's better to pass on them. They are an okay romp buddy. Metal music and Nintendo. You and I would probably be friends Arl. Lol, you the same then mate. Yes. I've been known to Zelda and Gojira. Haha. Obligatory Gojira upvote. Physics. Star Wars. Warhammer 40k. As a D&D guy who pokes around the fringes of Warhammer for curiosity and occasional inspiration. You are superbly intimating, and you all have my respect. Ancestry and genealogy. My husband is an amateur genealogist. He is Hungarian and reads hundreds of pages of beautiful and not so good calligraphic writing in a sitting. I'm astonished at the things he finds in archives. Jiu-jitsu. OS. Mathematics. I've always really enjoyed it and could easily go on for hours about its history and different applications. I also recreationally study combinatorics with a really nice professor I met last year, and we ML back and forth, occasionally adding our findings to the OEIS. I was talking special interests with my 8-year-old, and I suggested math might be one. He made a disagreeable face, but a minute later was explaining to me what Graham's number is. Sure kid, whatever, your kid sounds amazing, haha. I definitely recommend showing him some YouTube channels like 3 Blue 1 Brown or Numberphile once you think he's reached the point to be able to watch them. I know Numberphile has an entire video on Graham's number. He's a weird one. And thankfully my partner is good with the crazy maths to feed his interest. I'm pretty sure he has already watched that Numberphile vid about Graham's number. I watched 3 Blue 1 Brown's video on pandemic modeling, that was fantastic. It's weird. I'm really good at simple math, and other than fractals, my brain can't really handle math theory. My husband is terrible at simple math, but so good at getting a handle on the big math. The rise of alternative and grunge music in the late 80s and early 90s. One of the best eras in music, along with psychedelic rock and proto-metal of the late 60s, early 70s. A lot of fucking random TV shows, and Life is Strange. I need to know. The Tan or Chloe was gonna ask the same thing. Chloe for me. Anime. Harry Potter. My Chemical Romance. And Panic. At the Disco. And what interests you when you're not at the disco? Shit, you got me there. Useless knowledge of fictional characters from consuming so many kid chapter books growing up. Violet Alden of the Boxcar Children loved drawing and wore a lot of pigtails. According to whoever illustrated the books, red-tailed hawks sound like it's you, according to Animorphs. And I actually looked up the sound as an adult, and it is accurate. And the worst is, for some reason, maybe because there were 100 plus books and they really hammer in these character descriptions in every fucking book. I know the Babysitter's Club the best. Mallory Pike has 7 fucking siblings, and for some reason doesn't have a middle name. And yet they give Stassi the name of Anastasia Elizabeth McGill like an English debutante. I also hold useless knowledge of Harry Potter and his dark materials. But that makes me happier than knowing Shannon Kilburn's family liked purebred Bernese mountain dogs and her face was interesting, which is slightly insulting, if you ask me. Oh. Bless you. Books by Rick Riordan and TV shows by Dan Schneider. I don't know you, but I love you already. I'm a big fan of Percy Jackson series, Magnus Chase, Trials of Apollo and the Kane Chronicles. I read about 20 of those books in 6 months. I love how they are all intertwined and in one big universe. Quick question. What are all the books in order? I know that Percy Jackson is first, followed by Heroes of Olympus, but I don't know what is after that. I think Trials of Apollo is after Heroes of Olympus, and I think after that is Magnus Chase. For the Kane Chronicles I have no clue. TBH, Percy Jackson and Heroes of Olympus are the best. Reading after that kinda ruins it. 15 years of World of Warcraft and still counting. Specifically the gold farming part. I really envy people who have the stamina for gold farming. It's just not something I myself have. Harry Potter, My Hero Academia, Percy Jackson and the Olympians, Five Nights at Freddy's, Vines, animals in general. I could write books in how much I know about these. Oh, I read Harry Potter, and I'm a huge fan of PJO. I'm 4 episodes in My Hero, and I know a lot about FNAF. The Dark Souls lore is really deep and fantastic. If you look into it, there is a lot of videos out there, and I highly recommend you take a look. Basketball. I'm only 14 years old, but I know the NBA's history way back in the 60s. The Witcher, Northern Realms or Nilfgaard? There you go. Pal, that happens when people are not saying if it's a book, game or series. What do you mean? There are books, games, and there's even a Witcher Netflix series. Kind of weird I suppose, but teaching and understanding how people learn. I became such a nerd for it that I made it a career and hobby. If you are new to Tattletale TV, please subscribe. I have new videos every day. Stay tuned right now for another